Imagine a former US president saying he's not sure if he even has to follow the Constitution. Now imagine millions of people cheering him on anyway. Welcome to the Legal Breakdown, where truth meets the law and propaganda gets put on trial. This week, we're diving into something deeply disturbing. A bold attempt by Donald Trump and his longtime ally, Stephen Miller, to strip undocumented immigrants of their basic legal rights, namely due process. Yes, you heard that right. Stephen Miller tweeted that due process, the right to be heard in court before being deported, should not apply to undocumented immigrants. He claimed that this constitutional protection only exists for criminal defendants, not for what he called foreign trespassers. But here's the truth. That's complete and utter nonsense and dangerously misleading. According to legal expert Glenn Kirschner, Miller's take isn't just wrong, it's legally debunked by decades of Supreme Court rulings. And not by slim margins either. We're talking unanimous decisions that make it crystal clear. The US Constitution protects everyone within its borders, citizen or not, from being denied life, liberty, or property without due process. Let's break it down. In the 1976 case Matthews v. Diaz, the Supreme Court stated flat out that millions of aliens in the US are protected by the Constitution. In 1982, Plyler v. Doe reaffirmed that even undocumented immigrants are entitled to equal protection and due process under the 14th Amendment. And it goes back even further. Shaughnessy v. United States in the 1950s made it clear. Once someone is inside the US, they cannot be expelled without a fair legal process. So why is Stephen Miller saying otherwise? According to Glenn, it's simple. Miller is trying to fire up Trump's base. He's spreading misinformation to dehumanize immigrants and to create a false legal justification for mass deportations without any judicial oversight. That's not just dishonest, it's dangerous. Now, let's talk about Trump. In his usual style, Trump defended Miller's stance by claiming that giving due process to immigrants would be too time-consuming. His solution? Skip the process, deport first, and deal with the fallout later. Sound familiar? It's the same logic he used to justify other constitutional shortcuts. But here's the catch. It's not about time. It's about the rule of law. And no president, not even Donald Trump, gets to override the Constitution just because it's inconvenient. Glenn Kirschner had a strong response. Yes, it might take resources. Yes, it could be messy. But that's what democracy demands. You don't get to sidestep fundamental rights because you're in a hurry. Also, Trump seems confused about what a deportation hearing actually is. He's been ranting about how it would take millions of trials. But Glenn sets the record straight. Deportation hearings are not criminal trials. They're faster, more streamlined, and can be resolved in days or weeks. Trump, of all people, should know the difference. After all, he just had a full-blown criminal trial of his own and enjoyed every ounce of due process along the way. And here's where things get even more alarming. When Trump was asked directly whether he, as president, must uphold the Constitution, his answer was, "I don't know." Let that sink in. He took an oath to defend the Constitution, and now he's questioning whether he even has to follow it. Glenn calls it what it is, a clear sign that Trump is not only unfit for office, but is actively undermining democracy. So what happens next? According to Glenn, all these public lies, whether from Trump or Miller, can and will be used against them in court. They're not just rhetoric, they're evidence. And with over 200 lawsuits already challenging the Trump team's policies and actions, the courts will take note. In fact, Glenn welcomes these lies because they expose the true intent behind the agenda. And that intent is anything but constitutional. In the end, this isn't just about legal definitions. It's about values. About whether a nation that prides itself on justice will stand up for its principles, even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular, even when the powerful want to bend the rules to suit themselves. Because if we allow any leader to toss due process aside whenever it's inconvenient, we've lost something far more valuable than time. We've lost the very foundation of justice itself. Stay informed, stay alert, and remember, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.